Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you from this book about the Bahamas. We're going to look at all the fantastic pictures inside, and we're going to read all of the little boxes. Sorry for the wobbles. Let's start off by reading this brief introduction. Look at the sweet family here. I am obsessed with these sunglasses. Those are so cool. Introduction. My microphone has been really particular lately. I apologize. Let's get into it. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas consists of about 2,700 islands and keys, nearly 2,000 of which are little more than rock formations jutting above sea level. This single country is spread out over 90,000 square miles of the Atlantic Ocean off the southwestern coast of Florida. Most people know the Bahamas as a popular tourist destination, famous for its vast sandy beaches and opportunities to snorkel and scuba dive. These idyllic tropical islands have a colorful history. They have been a pirate's kingdom and part of the vast British Empire, and today they are an independent country with a democratically elected government. Over the centuries, the Bahamas also acquired its migrant population, with the result that its people are as diverse as its history. The Bahamas is still in many ways a tropical paradise for its citizens and for tourists, but new challenges are emerging. As global warming worsens, natural disasters such as hurricanes are affecting the Bahamas more often. The global economic slowdown has meant that tourist arrivals have dropped, having an adverse effect on the Bahamian economy and employment. The Bahamians, with their characteristic optimism, are looking to a future full of potential still to be realized. Now, this book is actually pretty old. The economic slowdown we're talking about is the recession of 2008, but you can kind of replace that with like the pandemic, right? The pandemic has meant that tourist arrivals have dropped, having an adverse effect on the Bahamian economy and employment. Very interesting. What goes around comes around, right? Look at this overhead view of the beautiful water around these gorgeous islands. Let's read about the Caribbean or the West Indies? Both Encyclopedia Britannica and the Random House Webster's College Dictionary say the West Indies includes the Greater Antilles, which is Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles, and the Bahamas. The dictionary defines the Caribbean as the islands and countries of the Caribbean Sea, the sea being bound by Central America, the West Indies, and South America. By that definition, the Bahamas, as part of the West Indies, does not belong to the Caribbean. Politically, however, the Bahamas is included whenever the Caribbean as a collective entity is mentioned. For example, the Bahamas belongs to an intergovernmental organization called the Caribbean Development Bank, and it is a member of the Caribbean Community and Common Market, or CARICOM for short. The Bahamas is also a beneficiary of the Caribbean Basin Initiative. There's some cool scuba diving caves there. And there's a blue hole, something pretty common in the Caribbean, which, I don't know. To me, the Bahamas and the Caribbean go hand in hand. You never think about it technically not being in the Caribbean. Look at this gorgeous picnic spot here among the trees. And there's some mangroves here growing in the salty water. Okay, these are really thick pages, my goodness. A shark. Dun, 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 dun. It's okay. This is just a little bitty shark. These guys aren't going to hurt you one bit. They're looking for little fish and things, not people. And there's some gorgeous flamingos up here, too. This is in Nassau. And it says you can see the bridge here between New Providence and Paradise Island. New Providence being the island where Nassau's located. And there's Nassau from above, it says. Pretty neat. There's lots and lots of boats here in this harbor. And look, you can get up close and personal with some sweet little dolphins there. This is in Hopetown, a classic lighthouse there. And look at this. This is Little White Key, a private island. Very jealous. Let's read about the best beaches and great dive sites. The Bahamas has some of the most idyllic beaches in the world. The sand is fine and white and visible beneath shallow, crystal clear water several yards out to sea. With more than 2,700 islands and keys, there are countless beaches to choose from. Among the most populated beaches are Old Fort Beach and Cable Beach on New Providence, Cabbage Beach on Paradise Island, Xanadu Beach on Grand Bahama, Tahiti Beach on the Abacos, Pink Sands Beach on Harbor Island, Ten Bay Beach on Eleuthera, and Saddle Key on the Exumas. They are filled with opportunities for leisure sports and entertainment, water skiing, windsurfing, snorkeling, beach bars, and restaurants. About 80% of Bahamian beaches are practically deserted, making them ideal for those who enjoy nature untouched by human activity and sound. The Bahamas is also a year-round diver's dream. There are dive sites for those who like exploring wrecks, but the main attraction is the marine life. Most of the islands are ringed with coral reefs. The reef off Andros is the third largest in the world. Dive sites have imaginative names. The Wall, Theo's Wreck, Spit City, Rose Garden, and Ben Blue Hole are some of them. Current Cut is an underwater gully that carries divers for a 10-minute ride on a swiftly flowing underwater current. Theo's Wreck dive site is named after the engineer Theophilus Galanopoulos, who suggested scuttling the MS Logna in shallow waters as an attraction for scuba divers. Sounds fantastic. And this is, it says, one of the last kerosene lighthouses in the world. It's on San Salvador. Another classic looking lighthouse. Let's read about protecting wildlife. The Bahamas is a member of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife, Wild Flora and Fauna, or CITES, which was created in 1973 to protect wildlife against exploitation of species on a scale that threatens its existence. In accordance with CITES rules, the Bahamas has divided its endangered species into two groups, those near extinction and those likely to become endangered. No trade is allowed in the first category, while limited trade is permitted for the second. Among the species nearing extinction are peregrine falcons, Bahama parrots, 4 species of turtles, which are the loggerhead, hawksbill, green, and leatherback turtles, Bahamian rock iguanas, American crocodiles, whales, dolphins, and West Indian manatees. The Ministry of Agriculture is the CITES managing authority in the Bahamas, while the Bahamas National Trust acts as the scientific authority. Together, these organizations grant permits for trade in endangered species and educate people on the need to preserve wildlife, particularly endangered species. Look at this. This is on Paradise Island. It's called the Versailles Gardens. Very cool. Here are the Lucayan peoples, which was Columbus's name for the Arawaks, the original inhabitants of the Bahamas. And here are some traditional village homes. And there's Columbus arriving and meeting the locals who, according to him, were very friendly and were like, "You want some food? We've got lots of food." They would come to regret it. There's Juan Ponce de Leon looking for treasure and probably the Fountain of Youth. This is an engraving, it says, by Charles I, which allowed Robert Heath the right to establish settlements around here. Very interesting. Shipwrecks were very common in this area because of all of the coral and rocks everywhere. So it was a very dangerous place to inhabit, but it was a perfect place for pirates. And here are the two infamous women pirates, Anne Bonny and Mary Read. Let's read about Woodes Rogers and the pirates. Woodes Rogers, an Englishman who went to sea to be a sailor, became a pirate buster when he assumed command of an expedition sponsored by merchants of Bristol, England, to eliminate piracy and make the shipping route safer for their trading vessels. In 1709, his ship rescued a man called Alexander Selkirk from the Pacific island on which he was marooned. This adventure inspired Daniel Defoe to write Robinson Crusoe. In 1718, the King of England appointed Rogers governor of the Bahamas with a specific command: to rid the islands of nearly 2,000 pirates who lived there. Rogers succeeded in this difficult task. In 1729, he called the first meeting of the House of Assembly, which passed 12 acts of Parliament designed to bring law and order to the islands of the Bahamas. By the time he died in the Bahamas in 1732, the days of pirate control of the islands were over. Let's read about Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny was born in County Cork, Ireland. She came to North America when her father, a lawyer, moved his family to the Carolinas to start a plantation. At a quite young age, she married a sailor, James Bonny, who took her to the Bahamas, where he worked for Governor Woodes Rogers in the fight against piracy. Anne fell in love with one of the enemy, Calico Jack. Late one night, Calico Jack and Anne Bonny stole a ship moored in the Nassau harbor and sailed away to begin a life of piracy together. She dressed like a man, became an expert with the pistol and the cutlass, and came to be considered as dangerous as any male pirate. In 1720, Calico Jack's ship, the Revenge, was attacked by a British vessel, and all its crew, including Anne Bonny and fellow pirate Mary Read, were captured. Bonny and Read were sentenced to death, but both confessed to their gender and were spared an immediate hanging due to the fact that they were pregnant. Mary Read died in jail, but Anne Bonny, after several postponements of her execution, simply disappeared. What happened to her remains unknown, but most people think her father managed to arrange her escape and that she returned to the Carolinas to live out the rest of her life under an assumed name. What a life. Let's see. This is a statue for the Loyalists who came to the Bahamas to start a new life after the American Revolution. Let's read about how the American Revolution affected the Bahamas. The Bahamas has a strategic location between North and South America. On at least 3 occasions in the 18th century, during the war between Britain and the American colonies, the Bahamas was invaded by foreign troops, twice by Americans and once by the Spanish. All 3 invasions ended after a temporary occupation by foreign forces. 1776 and 1778. The American Revolution closely affected the Bahamas because there were family ties with the residents of the British colonies and consequently some sympathy for the cause of American independence. When the American Navy attacked the Bahamas in 1776, however, it was not at the urging of sympathizers, but because Fort Nassau had a cache of gunpowder that the Americans badly needed. Britain had imposed a blockade of the northern colonies, preventing the entry of arms and ammunition. Unfortunately for the Americans, the gunpowder had been spirited away before they arrived. The rebels had a very good time in the islands despite not finding any gunpowder, and parted company with the Bahamians on excellent terms 2 weeks later. You go to a work trip in the Bahamas, it falls through, just spend your time on the beach. 1782. Taking advantage of the fact that the British forces were busy fighting a war in the north, the Spanish attacked and occupied Nassau in 1782. A loyalist colonel, Andrew Devoe, tricked the Spanish into surrender in a particularly hilarious way. He used a boat and one band of 200 mercenaries and sailed them into the harbor and then out, over and over again, so that the Spanish were fooled into believing themselves outnumbered. Ironically, the strategy was unnecessary, since the Spanish ceded the Bahamas to England in the Peace of Versailles in January 1783. That is particularly hilarious. These are sponge corals being harvested to make sponges. Here we see the Toucan Duchess of Windsor, it said. And the government building here. Looks like Queen Victoria there. And here's Queen Elizabeth II in 1977, once the Bahamas became independent. And this is the changing of the guard ceremony. You can see the guards here or on the cover of the book. Pretty neat. And a really cool picture of a meeting with the Commonwealth. Oop, there you go. Now you can see. The Supreme Court building, very fancy. Some very friendly looking police there. They're all smiles today. Let's read about some government leaders. And like I said, this book is pretty old, so some of it will be outdated, but not this one, about Lynden O. Pendling. Lynden O. Pendling from Nassau was the Prime Minister of the Bahamas from 1967 to 1992. He made history in 1967. Can you even see? There we go. By becoming the first black Bahamian prime minister, leading the Progressive Liberal Party to victory against the Unified Bahamian Party. Pendling led the country to full independence and instituted reforms that transformed banking and investment management into major industries. In 1983, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. From the 1980s, however, his government was the target of allegations of corruption, particularly of accepting bribes from drug syndicates and improper loans from business people. These charges, added to the country's high inflation and unemployment, led to the defeat of his party in the 1992 election. In 1997, after the landslide victory of the Free National Movement Party, Pendling resigned as leader of the PLP. And here's Hubert Alexander Ingram, who I think was Prime Minister when this book came out. There's a picture of him over here. Hubert Alexander Ingram grew up in Cooperstown on Great Abaco. He qualified as a lawyer in 1972. In 1975, he entered politics as a member of the ruling Progressive Liberal Party and was elected to the House of Assembly in 1977. After his re-election in 1982, he became the Minister of Housing, National Insurance, and Social Services. 2 years later, he was dismissed from the cabinet when he protested against government corruption, and in 1986 he was expelled from the PLP altogether. In the 1987 general election, Ingram ran as an independent candidate and was elected to the House of Assembly. He joined the official opposition to the PLP in April 1990 and was appointed leader of the Free National Movement in May. Ingram revitalized the FNM and in 1992 led his party to an overwhelming victory over the PLP, ending its 25-year control of the Bahamian government. He was re-elected in 2007 with a 2.84% margin and a 5-seat majority for his party in the House of Assembly. In addition to being the Prime Minister, Ingram is responsible for trade and industry. He has pledged to stamp out all corruption in the Bahamas and to conduct government affairs in the sunshine. Cool. The financial center. I love how all the official buildings are this beautiful pink color. And then look at how this place is lit up. This is the Carnival Crystal Palace Resort. Gorgeous. Man, this book has thick pages. This is the Atlantis Resort, a place I would absolutely love to go to someday. And these ladies are offering some hair braiding. It's pretty cool to the tourists visiting. The National Bank here, very official looking building. An oil refinery on Andros Island. This is a conch farm, the only conch farm in the world. You can raise conch shells, like ethically, And some big shipping containers being delivered. There's a satellite here. And inside the lighthouse. Oh, isn't this beautiful? My goodness. The Bahamas is just one of the most remarkable places in the world. The sweet fishes here. We have a hootia. This is a rodent that lives in the Bahamas. It's the only mammal endemic to the Bahamas. Here's a very sweet sea turtle. Oh no, it's about to eat a plastic bag. No, turtle, don't do it. That is not good for you. This person is diving to explore all this coral in the cave here. And some big forest land here. It's being protected by the environment. Looks like they're installing some solar panels here out in the greenery. And there's another beautiful turtle there. It's a green turtle. There's some rock iguanas. Pretty neat, guys. And look at this baby flamingo. Is this not the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? Flamingos grow up to be so goofy and oblong and awkward looking, but when they're babies, they're perfect. And here is a swampy mangrove swamp. Let's read about hurricanes in the Bahamas. The source of a hurricane's energy is derived from warmer than average ocean water along the equator and a corresponding higher level of humidity. In simplified terms, a low pressure area is created when water-laden clouds release heavy rains as the warm air rises. Surface air spirals inward and upward in a counterclockwise direction to fill the partial vacuum, reaching tens of thousands of feet above sea level to become the hurricane's eye. While the eye is almost calm and is often exposed to blue sky, the winds nearest the eye are the strongest. More lives are claimed by storm surges and flooding than by the winds of a hurricane. A feature of global warming is that hurricanes in the Bahamas are increasing in intensity and frequency, bringing with them damage, destruction, and death. Hurricane Wilma, which hit the Bahamas on October 24th, 2005, caused $110 million worth of damage. It hit the Bahamas with winds of 186 miles per hour and flooded southwestern coastal areas of Grand Bahama. Power and telephone services were disrupted throughout the island. 400 structures sustained damage, of which about 200 commercial buildings were damaged so severely that engineers recommended they not be repaired. Hurricane Noel in 2007 caused heavy rainfall across portions of the Bahamas, reaching a record 15 inches at one weather station. Sustained winds were around 40 miles per hour throughout the central and northwestern regions of the island chain. Extensive flooding was reported, especially on Great Abaco, forcing the evacuation of more than 700 people. Long Island was hit the worst, with floodwaters reportedly 5 feet deep, which residents said was the highest they had been in 60 years. Roads throughout the Bahamas suffered damage. Look at this hurricane here is covering the entirety of the Bahamas. This person has found a sea star here. Starfish, good for you. And these are native Bahamians just enjoying the fact that they get to live in the Bahamas and they were born and raised here. And lucky ducks. Having a good splash in the sea. Look at all these happy faces here. And this person here is a San Salvador Islander, descendants of former slaves left behind when loyalist plantation owners migrated. Some more very sweet faces and some more very sweet faces. He's getting buried in the sand. Let's read about, to bring things down, the Haitian problem. Let's see. In the Bahamas, the expanding Haitian population is openly referred to as the Haitian problem. There are currently an estimated 83,000 Haitians in the Bahamas. I'm sure it's much, much higher now. Some are there legally and others illegally. To native Bahamians, that is an intimidating 27% of the population. Contrary to what many Bahamians think, however, the Haitians are not crowding them out of public schools and hospitals. While their low incomes force the Haitians to rely on government clinics and schools, statistics show that they make little use of social services and receive less than their fair share of national insurance payouts. About 8.8% of all school children are Haitians. The percentage of live births to Haitians in the Bahamas was about 11% in 2003, and in 2001, Haitians made less than 20% of all outpatient visits to public clinics, all numbers that are disproportionately low for the estimated size of the Haitian community. More than 12,000 registered Haitians contributed more than $3.5 million to national insurance in 2004, but they received only 1.8% of total benefits, far less than might be expected from the estimated size of the population. The Haitian community provides its own social services and has little contact with the government in this regard. There's a sweet face right there. And since many of the taxes in the Bahamas are indirect, they are paid by both legal and illegal residents. Given that the Bahamas badly needs the cheap labor the Haitians provide, many believe that the best thing the government can do is think about how to stabilize the size of the Haitian community and integrate long-term Haitian residents into the mainstream of Bahamian society. I agree, if people like this want to bring their sweet littles to a place that's safe and can provide opportunities, I'm all for it, honestly. I don't see the problem. This is a very beautiful person here, a Creole girl from Long Island. And this is a Chinese immigrant. Looks like he owns a restaurant here. And some more wonderful faces, happy smiling in their Sunday best. What a beautiful house. This is a resort house. Oh, that would be so wonderful to stay in. Some more wonderful smiling faces, enjoying tea time, it looks like. And here's a more rural settlement. This is on Cockburn Town in San Salvador. You can see not quite as fancy as places like this in Nassau. And they're beautiful and bright. Just everyone in this place is just so happy. Look at, she's filling up her bucket, just making sure that our hair's up nice and safe. And look, everyone just like loves each other in this picture. Very sweet. Working in a fancy jewelry store. And here's a lovely wedding. Very nice looking wedding party there. And here is a graveyard with fresh flowers there. People visiting, paying their respects. And some school children looking very spiffy. Also with smiling, happy faces. Everyone in the Bahamas is just so smiling and happy. Let's read about bush medicine. Bahamians take advantage of the good medical care provided by public hospitals and clinics. But at the same time, many of them, especially on the family islands, retain a strong belief in folk medicine to cure common ailments, and even some less common ones. When used as a tea or in other liquid concoctions, cerasee is said to be effective against anything from the common cold to cancer. The traditional Bahamian believes that a poultice of pepper leaves reduces boils. Dried goat droppings are effective against whooping cough. Ground snails remove warts. And hog grease is a remedy for hair loss. Tea brewed from the leaves of a tree called the five-finger or chicken toe is believed to relieve body aches. A salve of white sage leaves is applied to the skin to soothe chickenpox and measles. Wild guava is eaten by diabetics. Of all the family islands, Cat Island is considered the stronghold of bush medicine, and many of the islanders there have the reputation of being effective healers. The island tradition in herbal remedies is included in the education program at the Rand Memorial National Nature Center in Freeport, which displays exhibits and offers lectures on the subject. Some just incredibly happy people on this island. Look at this old church. Sorry, it's a monastery on Cat Island. Incredible. What a place to visit. This is a beautiful church. This is in Nassau. And there are people leaning down to pray. This is a Greek Orthodox church in Nassau. Does look very Greek. Language. So there's some cool signs here. Let's see, advertisement boards. You can see some cool conch shells down here too. They're working very hard in school. Some more smiling, giggly faces. Let's read some popular Bahamian slang. Big eye means greedy. Biggity means brash. Biggity, good ASMR word. Bright means light-skinned. To buck up means to crash a car. To buck up your car. Conchi Joe means a Bahamian of Caucasian descent. A cut hip is to give a beating. Duff means boiled fruit-filled dough. Yum. Gussie May means a fat Bahamian girl. A jack means friend. To juke means to stab. I guess that's a good word to know in case you get stabbed. A sip means gossip. Sweetheart means having an affair. And tree is the word for 3. 700 Bahama Islands, and there are signs leading you to all of them. Isn't that great? Or at least as many as possible. They have a huge satellite at this house. They get all the channels. Some gorgeous masks and conch shells down there. This is the National Art Gallery. A rake and scrape band playing on the beach. Looks like they're of all ages here. And this guy is playing some tunes. Probably, yeah, for some tips. Look at this art. Oh, that is absolutely gorgeous. Look, it looks like a bunch of colors, but when you look closely, you can see like the house here and the people. There's like a rooster here. This is fantastic. I can look at that all day. Some souvenir baskets. That's really neat. This is what I imagine living in the Bahamas is like. You just get to chill out and relax all day. And this just looks unreal, right? This is something you see on like screensavers. So amazing. This is on one of the many cruise ships that visit the Bahamas. And down here is one of the wrecks. It says it's Sugar Wreck. You can dive down and see. Let's read about spring break in the Bahamas. College vacations see crowds of American students congregate at resorts in the Bahamas. Student group organizers set up stations, sometimes just a table and a few chairs outside their hotel, and dispense advice. They also keep a check on the behavior of members in their groups, for Bahamian authorities are on guard against undesirable behavior, especially in large groups of vacationing students. They like to maintain an image of the Bahamas as a desirable family resort destination. They're making sure nobody gets crazy drunk. There is no bad time to go, except that the southern islands may be uncomfortably warm in the summer, and one must be prepared for some wet weather in the winter. Loose-fitting cotton clothes, sandals, and protection from the sun, all easily packed into one carry-on bag, take care of personal effects for a week's fun by the sea, while those who prefer hiking need sturdier clothes and shoes for protection from thorny bushes and rocky limestone ground. Carousing does not end when the sun goes down, and student vacationers are generally well prepared for evenings of entertainment in some of the hotels that dot the beachfronts of the Bahamian Islands. This guy has caught a bonefish. Pretty neat. There we go. Going for a fun bike ride. That must be exciting. And this is in the Atlantis Resort. You can go gambling. Isn't this amazing? This is during Junkanoo, which is a Caribbean celebration during Boxing Day. There's another Junkanoo picture over here. It was the one day off that slaves got during Christmas, like the Christmas season. And now it's one huge party. This is another parade. They're all dressed up like Uncle Sam. And another Junkanoo participant here. Looks like she's in some kind of costume contest. Pretty elaborate there. And some more really fun costumes there for Junkanoo. And these are Goombay dancers swinging around. Big old smiles. Everyone is just smiles in this book, isn't it? And here's the police band performing on Independence Day. And they are doing the limbo. Oh my, this guy has brought us some delicious drinks. Those look so fruity. Let's read about the conch crisis, which I have never seen an actual conch that wasn't empty. Well, anyway, let's read about the conch crisis. Overfishing has caused a drastic decline in the supply of conch throughout the Caribbean. During the past few decades, intense fishing pressure has led to the collapse of the conch fishery in many Caribbean countries. In the Bahamas, the conch fishery is slowly getting depleted. Fishermen have to go farther to find conch as the near-shore supply is drying up. In the Bahamas, it is illegal to catch immature conch, but a large proportion of the conch catch are juvenile conch that have not had a chance to reproduce. In some parts of the northern Bahamas, up to 90% of the conch landed are juveniles. students in South Eleuthera studied old and new piles of conch shells. They found that in the piles at least 10 years old, 5% of the conch were juveniles, while of the conch caught today, 95% are juveniles. Catching conch before they have reproduced threatens the sustainability of this resource and the livelihoods of the fishermen who depend on it. The conch is listed as a threatened species by CITES. To reverse this, stronger enforcement of the Bahamian laws regarding harvesting conch is needed, and a network of marine reserves where no conch fishing is allowed must be put in place as quickly as possible to allow conch to breed and the population to recover. Oh my, this looks so tasty. Rice with pigeon peas and peppered, called peas and rice, and some papaya. And you gotta get the hot sauce in there. What is that? I don't know that brand. Halls? Hot sauce is hot sauce to me. If it makes it hot and spicy, that's good. And look at this barbecue. Yum, yum. Lots and lots of fruit here to eat. Like some bananas. Whatever these are. I mean, they look tasty. I just don't know what it is. Here's a Senor Frogs, which is, it's funny. Of course, they're in the Bahamas, but we have Senor Frogs in America. In any kind of like beach city, there's a Senor Frogs restaurant. There's some Johnny cakes here, just some basic bread, and guava duff to put on your bread. And then a big old map here of the Bahamas. And can we see on the weird map where the Bahamas is located? Right there. Alright, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still awake, please go down and leave a comment below what your favorite part was or a cool fact you learned. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoy this kind of content, I do lots of book flip-throughs and reading little boxes all the time, so please consider subscribing so you don't miss out when a new book is uploaded. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good